All right, Matthew, welcome to Module 5, Periodization, Combining the Pieces. The overview for Module 5 is Will's 5 training phases, recapping our energy systems, when to do each phase, how to do each phase, who does each phase. One thing we're not going to cover in this module is multiple seasons or multiple peaks within a season. We're kind of just going to focus on the big goal at the end of a season or build up. So let's get into it. So these are the 5 training phases I like to use at the fundamental level. We've got base, event specific, taper, race, and recovery. There's often, a lot of phases that have thrown in between base and taper. And this can really confuse people when you have various endurance events and you have different seasons or multiple races or one singular large ultra. And I like to use just event specific, and we can target the specifics of our event in a few different ways. And so we want to kind of get through that in the rest of the slides. So what we've got is pretty much 2 to 3 week blocks within training blocks. So that'd be followed by a recovery or a down week within these phases. And we can start to piece that together to ensure that we get a continuous improvement in fitness and conditioning towards our event. And so that's what we want to get over. Matt, how do you see your phases in compared to like what I've put here?
Yeah, first off, I really like this word diagram you made. So that's really nice to see. And I think we can get a bit carried away with our different training phases. And I like what you've done here with the simplicity, because I've seen things before like base 1, base 2, base 3. Is there a base 4? Is there a base 5? Build 1, build 2. And, really, base 2 is just a different kind of base training that has
we've got these slides, so let's not get ahead of ourselves, man.
Well, yes, that's all I want to say is that, using these simple terms avoids confusion, right? And getting the language straight between our athletes and between coaches is good. And I think that's why some of the other terminology has stuck around for so long. But then for someone coming in totally new, hasn't read the same training books as we have, is a little bit confusing. So what you've done here is really simple. I like it.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to do was make it cyclic as well, because these cycles, these training phases, can be used in like a singular micro phase or the larger macro phase, because we may be racing, tapering, recovering very quickly within like a small 4-week block, or we may be, doing it across a 6-month or a one year build up. And I like what you say when we are talking language. When we did our training zones, we wanted to have the same training zones mean the same thing to me, you, your athlete, my athlete, and everyone in between. And it's the same kind of thing here, where you just need to have an athlete understand if it's in base phase, there are specific demands of that. And it's mainly easy training, volume-based easy training for the most part. Then when you're in event specific phase, the intensity and the quality of the sessions is more important than the overall volume. So you kind of just say, you have a greater capacity to rest here because you have some real specific event targeted sessions. Whereas in the base phase, you can push on under a bit of fatigue because each session should not be, as taxing as an event specific one. But we'll get into it as we go through these phases. First off, Matt, we need to recap our energy systems.
Okay, so we talked about energy systems a bunch so far, and that's because, well, actually what we're doing in training is trying to stress these energy systems. So how do you see that fitting within a periodized plan, Will?
Well, very much like we've discussed throughout these modules, is we need to target what is the predominant energy system, the aerobic system, within our training, but we cannot neglect the other two, and more specifically, we can't neglect the anaerobic system. But then with the anaerobic system, you have the fatiguing nature of that training. So there really needs to be a structure around it. We've talked about how to target each energy system with our training zones, and we'll just touch on that. And we've also discussed like kind of the importance of the aerobic system. So now we get to start to put it into an overall season plan. So we just need to remember, like, what are we trying to do within each phase? And then within the phase, we have the zones. And within the zones, we have the energy systems. And so it all comes back to the same line of thinking and same line of science again. So we're speaking that same language. So we just need to also recap, our zones so we know where we're putting our focus through these phases.
Dr. Matt and I started the Performance Advantage podcast to help runners, riders, and outdoor competitors integrate sports science more effectively into their training and racing.
So over the last few years, Dr. Will and I have covered topics like the lactate threshold, training zones, power meters, and fatigue. Now we're condensing these popular and misunderstood topics into practical courses.
Our courses take our same podcasting style approach to learning and education, and we break it down into bite-sized chunks that you can digest either all at once or as practical little resources to use as and when you need them.
So the biggest difference between our course and any other course you might have taken is that we don't lecture you. It's a conversation between Will and I, and we're explaining complex sports science principles in an easy to understand manner.
Yeah, we also integrate how we use them on the regular. Our courses come with a certificate of completion as well as a lot of takeaway resources such as training plans, scientific articles, and quizzes that you can do to check your progress along the way.
Our sports science courses are available now. Register on performanceadvantagepodcast.com for immediate access.